Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zeng here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online VGC 16 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Still continuing to use the team that I used to win Anaheim Regionals. Probably will be switching to something new pretty soon, so if you have any recommendations or suggestions, definitely let me know. I'm pretty open to trying out a bunch of different things right now, since most of my time dedicated towards Pokemon at this point is for YouTube as opposed to preparing for tournaments, since the winter regional season is basically over. So yeah, next couple of major tournaments will be in the spring, I believe in Seattle and in Massachusetts. Be attending both of those regionals. Unfortunately, wasn't able to make it to Oregon because I had exams and I ended up canceling my trip there, but still in a really solid position to make day 2 of Worlds as long as I have a good finish at US Nationals. So pretty hyped that I already qualified for day 1, and we'll see how it goes. Gonna get the episode kicked off right away with the Japanese opponent with a rating of 1801. And as always, if you enjoy Road to Rank, please share your support by leaving a like in the video. Would really appreciate it. Anyway, my opponent here is rocking a relatively standard looking team of Kangaskhan, Salamence, Kyogre, Amoonguss, Talonflame, and Xerneas. So one thing that sticks out to me immediately is the lack of Rayquaza and the choice of Kyogre and Xerneas. You know, we see a lot of Groudon, Xerneas paired together and Kyogre with Rayquaza. Those typically are a little bit more common, but it's pretty interesting to see Kyogre by itself here because that does make the matchup a little bit easier for Groudon. This does look beneficial for something like Bronzong and Groudon because once Gravity goes up, Precipice Blades just one-hit KOs the Talonflame and does basically over 50% to everything bar bulky Amoonguss and probably a bulky Kyogre. So, as always, got to figure out which Mega Evolution to bring. Both Mawile and Salamence are pretty solid here. Salamence can be interesting for the Tailwind option. Leading something like Salamence Bronzong is actually pretty tempting because I put on pressure immediately, get it Intimidate off, and Bronzong can go straight for the Trick Room. So yeah, I might go with Salamence Bronzong here with Kyogre and Groudon, and the main reason why I don't want to go with Mawile is because I already have Bronzong, which is a pretty solid answer to Xerneas and Salamence, and then my Salamence can Intimidate, it can also outspeed outside of Trick Room, so I do have the Trick Room option, but also gives me another answer to the Amoonguss, which I think my opponent will definitely want to bring, given that I'm running a Trick Room team, or part Trick Room team, and you know, Amoonguss is actually a really good counter to Trick Room, so we'll see how this game goes. But lead matchup is always probably the most important thing here. I'm going to lead with Salamence and Bronzong, get the Intimidate off immediately. He's going to go with Kangaskhan and Amoonguss, and Salamence actually couldn't enjoy this lead matchup any better, so that's kind of why I brought it. Bringing Mawile here would have been okay, but Salamence actually just threatens the one-hit KO onto Amoonguss immediately. Also pretty nice to see Kangaskhan over the Salamence on my opponent's side, because now this means that, you know, once my Salamence Mega Evolves, I'll be faster for the remainder of the match. So since I do have the Lumberry on Bronzong, I mean, if I were him, you could Fake Out and Spore the Salamence, or you can make a pretty good prediction of me going for the Protect on Salamence and Fake Out and Spore Bronzong. So I could play a little bit risky here and just Double Edge Amoonguss. I wonder if he'll let me get that off. The safe play is still just to Protect, and yeah, I'm gonna play it safe here. I'm just gonna Protect and Gyro Ball into Kangaskhan. No switch out here, which is good, so not going to be losing much, though he could Power Up Punch with Kangaskhan, and if he does carry that, that would be a pretty good option. But going to play it safe, going to Mega Evolve to get the speed boost to make sure Salamence does outspeed Kangaskhan. And Intimidate at this point. I've intimidated the Kangaskhan, and that's kind of the most important thing, so I don't really feel like I need to conserve it. I do have, you know, better defenses as well with Mega Salamence. So going to go for the safe Protect. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Fake Out onto Bronzong. Oh, but he does Fake Out actually just into Salamence. But he actually Spores into Bronzong, so also a very safe play there for my opponent, but since I do have the Lumberry, I will be able to wake up. And the nice thing is, of course, he's going to be able to outspeed with Amoonguss, but that's pretty important to note, because if he gets the Spore off, then I'll be able to burn Sleep Turns pretty easily, as Gyro Ball here does a pretty comfortable amount to Kangaskhan. Not bringing under 50%, but I'll take that. So given that we see Kangaskhan and Amoonguss, it's most likely that my opponent has Kyogre and Xerneas in the back. So here I could go straight for the Double Edge into Amoonguss and the Gyro Ball into Kangaskhan. I don't really see much reason not to do so. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. He could Protect with the Amoonguss, but if he does, you know, Kangaskhan can return or Double Edge Salamence, and if he does have Double Edge, then Recoil plus Gyro Ball actually knocks him out. So, I don't know, I think that the lead matchup works out really nicely here. He doesn't Protect with the Amoonguss, so I do get the Double Edge off. Is it enough to knock him out? No, he actually is going to be the Focus Sash variant that we've seen running around more commonly. Alex Underhill actually used Focus Sash Amoonguss to get top 8 at Regionals over in Illinois, I believe. He actually goes for the Low Kick here onto Bronzong. Pretty interesting decision. Spore most likely into Salamence. Yeah. So that saved my opponent. I think if my opponent didn't have that, he actually would have just outright lost the game. But now this actually puts him in a really good position. So Focus Sash Amoonguss coming through for my opponent. That does make this game a lot more difficult to win now. The low kick onto Bronzong was also a pretty interesting move, but I like that one a lot. So I'm just going to Hyper Voice here, and I'm going to let him Spore my Bronzong. I'm just going to take my sleep turns and burn 1 turn of sleep on both Pokemon. We see low kick there did 56 damage, I believe, if I'm doing the math correctly. So I could actually take 2 of those, depending on the damage rolls. He's going to stay in with both Pokemon, which I'm okay with. Here's another low kick. So yeah, he's actually targeting down the Bronzong right now. Doesn't want that Trick Room to go up, and I think I might be able to even take a 3rd one, though he could actually just the following turn go for like a Grass Knot. However, if Salamence wakes up, he'll also be in a lot of trouble. So now pressure's on because both of my Pokemon have taken 1 turn of sleep. However, if my opponent gets lucky and gets like 2 2-turn sleeps, or even 3-turn sleeps, that could save him the game. So I'm just gonna Hyper Voice here, and I'm actually going to go for the Trick Room here. Yeah. He actually protects with the Amoonguss. That's a really solid play there. What does Kangaskhan go for? Salamence does wake up, which is excellent. So that's going to be able to knock out the Kangaskhan. Now it'll be kind of funny if Bronzong wakes up, because then I'll set up a Trick Room, but then under Trick Room I can just Gyro Ball, knock out Amoonguss. I actually do wake up with Bronzong as well. So I actually wouldn't have minded if my Bronzong stayed asleep there. The reason why I went for the Hyper Voice and Gyro Ball was to basically go for the safest play possible. Even if I wake up with both, then I still get Trick Room up, and we saw that Bronzong is faster than Amoonguss under Trick Room, which is big. Though, another thing I was actually, it might have been nicer actually if I stayed asleep with Bronzong, because then I could Tailwind the next turn and Gyro Ball Amoonguss. That could have worked out nicely too, but in a really fantastic position right now. Knocked out the Mega Evolution, Amoonguss has taken a ton of damage, but once again, the Focus Sash really coming in for my opponent there. I think if Amoonguss didn't have Focus Sash, and presumably he has Kyogre and Xerneas in the back, then this game definitely just would have been over, but Focus Sash is, I think, a really solid item, as we're going to see Kyogre come in for my opponent here. And the reason why I think Focus Sash is so good is because of the fact that, you can easily survive those attacks that should one-hit KO, like Double Edge and Dragon Ascent from Rayquaza. So Kyogre coming in here is pretty interesting because I can just switch out into Groudon and Gyro Ball the Amoonguss slot. The only issue is if Gyro Ball... I was going to say if it doesn't knock out Amoonguss, but then I realized it literally has 1 HP. So that's exactly the play I'm going to go for. And we know that Bronzong outspeeds Amoonguss, since earlier Amoonguss was getting the Spore off before. Bronzong incredibly slow. There's a reason why it's excellent Pokemon this year. We did see Bronzong occasionally back in VGC 2008 and 2009, but since then it really hasn't seen much usage, and that's because in other years there have been more reliable Trick Room users such as Bronzong or even Gothitelle, Cresselia and Gothitelle, but he actually does make the best play possible here of withdrawing the Amoonguss, which I think is a good one, but it is going to be the Xerneas. That's exactly what I was hoping to see here, and I think I've got my opponent trapped in a pretty poor position here, because I'll be able to bring in the Groudon. He most likely will go for an Ice Beam into the Salamence slot, but, I'm fine with that, because I know my Groudon can take 3 Ice Beams. So, after he gets the Ice Beam off this next turn, I can just go for Gravity Precipice Blades, and yeah, with Trick Room up, and with my Kyogre and Salamence still sitting pretty healthy, I'm definitely in a good position to win this one, although it's certainly not over, and my opponent's, definitely not lost yet. So he's not going to protect with Kyogre because there's little reason to when Trick Room is up and you're threatening with both your Kyogre and another Pokemon. He actually goes for the Thunder, which was about the last move I was anticipating, but one that might actually save my opponent here. No gravity up, so my opponent does connect, actually gets a critical hit too, which is kind of funny. So that definitely helps him out a little bit more. If he didn't hit that, I think the game would have just been over, but my opponent went for the risk and it paid off. And now it's actually kind of a awkward position because if I bring in Salamence, then yeah, I don't want to bring in Kyogre because then the range just goes up, so I kind of have to bring in Salamence here. So the Thunder coming out from my opponent, that's actually really scary to see. Here I'm definitely going to go for Precipice Blades. The question is, does Kyogre go for the Ice Beam or does he predict the Protect and go for a Protect of his own? If I Precipice Blades... Well, I guess there's little reason to not protect Salamence. P-Blades, and... yeah, I'm just gonna protect here. Play it safe. He's gonna protect with Kyogre, that's fine. Was there anything better I could have done there? I don't really think so. Let's see if it connects with Xerneas. Precipice Blades does hit the Xerneas. So yeah, well, I wasn't considering Thunder from Kyogre, and my opponents had two things in this matchup that has really saved him so far. The Focus Sash onto Amoonguss. And this is actually really interesting because now he can just Spore Groudon and Ice Beam Salamence. However, he also doesn't have Regenerator, which is pretty interesting on Amoonguss. But what I'm going to do here is, because I want Sun Up for the remainder of the match, I'm actually going to switch out into Kyogre. Let's think this through. Because here you Ice Beam, you just Ice Beam and you Spore. Actually, another play I could make is protecting Groudon and switching Mence into Kyogre. I like that a little bit more, actually. Yeah, I'm going to go for that play. I mean, I find it highly he could Ice Beam and Spore the Mence slot, I guess. Actually, that might be the play I would make if I were him. So that would be a good one. But the idea is I get Kyogre out. So I get my Rain up. But then I switch my Groudon back out into my Mence, so I have Sun Up for the remainder of the game, in which Kyogre has to Ice Beam at that point. But, yeah, the Thunder was a really good play onto Bronzong, I think. He does Spore into Groudon here, though, and he does Ice Beam. Perfect. Okay, good, good. So let's see. Is that the last turn of Trick Room? It's not. There's still one more turn here. Huh. I could also sacrifice my Groudon, actually, and win the game with Salamence and Kyogre. Is that better, actually? That might be better. I'm definitely protecting Kyogre here. Nah, I'd rather play because Groudon is bulkier. So I'll switch out into Groudon here and just protect. Or switch out into Salamence. Yeah. So playing methodically right now. We've seen Thunder, we've seen Ice Beam, so most likely Origin Pulse as opposed to Water Spout on Kyogre. But we'll have to see. Yep, he just spores into Kyogre. He does actually have Water Spout. If that doesn't knock me out, the game's definitely over. Yeah, but that is going to pick up the knockout. Good play from my opponent, but now Trick Room expires. Yep, perfect. So now all I do is bring in Groudon. I guess he does have Thunder still with Kyogre, so that could save him. But he would need to hit Thunder against my Kyogre and either critical hit or paralysis / full paralysis. Because here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go straight for the Precipice Blades, and I'm going to Ice Beam into Amoonguss. He's probably going to protect Amoonguss, but I'm fine with that. Yep, he does. Let's see what Kyogre does. Does he Thunder? Does he Ice Beam? He actually is going for the Thunder. He does connect in the Sun once again, but that's not going to knock me out. Ice Beam goes into the Protect. Precipice Blades hopefully connects. Okay, it does. Always got to hold your breath for a little bit. Let's see if it's enough to 2-hit KO. Yeah, it is. That's great. So given that it's enough to 2-hit KO here, he's faster with Kyogre. I might not want to risk it. I might actually go for the 100% accurate Fire Punch here. I mean, because the thing is, if I miss Precipice Blades against Amoonguss, then again, I guess if it hits Kyogre, I also win the game. And if he misses Thunder, I also win. Let's see, he gets a double Protect off. I still need to hit a Precipice Blades here. As long as I hit one of two, I win. I'm just going to go for the P-Blades. And I'm going to Ice Beam once again. Okay, he missed. I was gonna say, like, if he hit 3 Thunder under Sun, that'd be absolutely ridiculous. But Ice Beam comes out, gonna pick up the knockout onto Amoonguss, and Precipice Blades comes out. So I don't know. I was thinking there, would it have been safer to... I mean, I guess I could have protected Kyogre and Fire Punch too. That might have been actually the best play possible. But I figured there, what has to go right for my opponent is, first he has to Thunder Kyogre. If he doesn't, he loses. Oh, I guess he could protect with the Moongus, but yeah, Thunder Kyogre has to hit. I have to double miss Precipice Blades there, which is certainly, you know, pretty common. It's not exactly like the rarest thing. So yeah, maybe I should have Fire Punched. I was afraid of the double protect option. Timer was also running down there, as you see, so could have maybe used that to my advantage, but didn't really want to, and I figured the game was already pretty locked up. But yeah, that was a really fun game. I think the matchup was way in my favor because, fortunately enough, I brought Salamence. I think if I brought Mawile there, that game would have been like 10 times more difficult. But we're going to find Mark immediately from the UK with a rating of 1818. Win here actually does put us back into the 1800s, so it'd be nice, but certainly not going to be an easy matchup. A dual Primal actually is one of the most difficult matchups for this team. I do believe these are the 6 same Pokemon that Chupacross and Gavin Michaels, who originally created the team and 2013 US National Champion, invented. Both of them got top 8 at regionals, or Chupa got top 4, I believe it was at Illinois. Gavin got top 8 at Florida, losing to Wolfie Glick in a really good set, so... I actually don't know too much about the team. I know that the Ferrothorn here, if it is the same, has its Substitute and Lumberry. But I think Gavin put the Lumberry onto a Moongus instead. So once again, I think Salamence might be the better call here. A Mawile is typically a little bit tempting to bring, especially when your opponent has the Thundurus, but Salamence here otherwise puts on immense pressure against a Moongus, Kyogre, Groudon, and Ferrothorn. It can also Tailwind potentially, so I'm going to lead with Salamence again. In the back, who do I want? Smeargle could be interesting. But without Follow Me, I don't think it's that great. Though it does have Wide Guard, and Wide Guard could be huge in this matchup. So I'm kind of tempted to bring it for that reason. But I feel like I still kind of need the Trick Room setup with Kyogre Groudon, so I'm going to go for that. Yeah. Now what's going to be most interesting is which 2 non-restricted Pokemon my opponent brings here. For example, you know, you really want to bring both Kyogre and Groudon, especially because both are really good in the mirror matchup, and if you forego one of them, like, you better have a good reason. Moongus and Ferrothorn are really good against Trick Room teams, Thundurus is good, and Salamence is also solid, so he's going to have to give up some pretty important Pokemon for the matchup here, whereas I feel a little bit more comfortable with my 4. We actually do see Salamence and Thundurus coming out immediately from his end, though. So... yeah, I would say I definitely got outled here. If I had Mawile, you know, would be a pretty nice Pokemon to have right now, but obviously not the case. And he does get the Intimidate off against my Bronzong as well. So if you were my opponent, you can go straight for the Taunt. Yep, that's definitely something. I could just Hyper Voice Gyro Ball here. But that's kind of a silly play. Especially because we could see a Draco Meteor go into Salamence. I could also Protect Mence and Gyro Ball Salamence. His Salamence, of course. I kind of like that play. Just try to get some free damage off here before anything else, and it's not too risky, since most Salamences don't carry a Fire-type attack, or even those that do can't really do very much against such a bulky Bronzong. Thundurus can Thunderbolt or Thunder Wave, or Taunt, more importantly. So, you got the Intimidate off and Mega Evolve first. But I'm max speed, so that tells me that he should be max speed as well. And there's little reason to not run max speed Mence in the format right now. If you do, you just lose the mirror matchup. Yeah, so he does go for the taunt, but I did predict that, so I didn't go for a Trick Room because I don't feel the need to Trick Room this early on. He actually does launch the Draco Meteor into Mence, which is what I was anticipating. Did get a free Gyro Ball off here. So just trying to pick up some damage. I'll probably do around 30% or so. Yep, right around the money. Here we might see another Draco Meteor. If I were him, what would I do? I would maybe Double Edge, actually. So I could make a prediction here. Could Hyper Voice Gyro Ball. Kind of want to do that. Because I don't want Groudon to take too much damage. But if he wins his speed tie and he gets a Draco Meteor off, then I think I just, like... I mean, I lose so much momentum from that. But then I do get the free switch into Groudon. However, he'll have Weather Control. So this Thundurus is really causing me some issues right now. I don't know. I feel like he might predict the switch out. Or he might protect. I'm going to go for the Hyper Voice. Not in a great position right now, though. He just goes for the Draco Meteor. Yeah, so I thought he would have predicted that and gone for a Double Edge, since Double Edge would do more damage to And that kind of sucks that I lose the speed tie, because I think if I win the speed tie there, then actually puts me still in a pretty good position. Now it's just bad because I'm taunted. But, you know, that was my fault for kind of risking it. He probably doubled up into that slot too, so I could have switched out into Groudon. He gets the paralysis onto Bronzong. That actually helps me in terms of damage output, but because I do have the Lumberry, that's not going to actually do anything. And here's the Gyro Ball. So, I do get to switch it into Groudon, but I'm down right now. If I could Trick Room, then I would feel very good about this matchup. But right now, because I'm taunted, I can't Trick Room. And of course, that's because Bronzong chooses to carry the Lumberry as opposed to a Mental Orb. Both are really good items, but Lumberry helping out against Spore users or sleep-inducing users in general, such as Smeargle and Amoonguss. So, you get the switch into Groudon, but yeah, you know, losing that speed tie definitely sucks a little bit. Okay, let's see. What do you do if you're my opponent? I actually like don't want to knock out Mens, but I think if you're my opponent, you just switch out into Kyogre. I can still win this one, but it really comes down to predicting the primals coming in. For example, if you switch into Kyogre, and that's kind of all you need to do, I think. Like, I need to cover the Kyogre switch in, but you could just, like, double-edge Thunderbolt Groudon. I can't just protect Groudon either. Trick Room, I mean, I couldn't... Yeah, I think I really have to predict the switch into Kyogre. So maybe I should switch my Groudon back out, baiting the Kyogre switch in. I'll Gyro Ball Thundurus to break a potential Sash here. He does withdraw Mens. Is it Kyogre coming in? Groudon coming in would actually even be more interesting, but yeah, it is Kyogre. It would be crazy if he had Hidden Power Water Thundurus. Right, that's something that we often see on the bulky electric types like Thundurus and Zapdos. Not often see, but it's something that a lot more players are running now, especially when they're running Kyogre. So I made that call correctly, but it's still a really weird position to be in, especially because I'm probably just going to take a Thunderbolt into the Bronzong slot. So yeah, the Thundurus plus the dual Primal on my opponent's side is just really not helping my case here. Maybe I should have led better than to anticipate that. Smeargle maybe could have put on some pressure. Yep, he just... Yeah, he makes a great prediction, predicting the Kyogre switching, covering that option. Goes for the Thunderbolt onto the Kyogre slot. So really, really well played there. Gyro Ball here is going to do negligible damage. But like I said, it was to break the Sash. Now, Taunt does wear off, so I could go for a Trick Room, but be very surprised if he let me get that off. Huh, I don't know, though. He might... Because you might be tempted to Ice Beam or Thunderbolt Kyogre here. The Groudon switch-in's obvious, too. But if you were him, you could go for the safe Water-type attack. Another move I can make is Ice Beaming Thundurus and switching out into Groudon. That would be interesting. I'm gonna... No, I think maybe I should have still tried to set up Trick Room, but I was running out of time there. He actually withdraws the Kyogre. Do we see a taunt go onto Bronzong? That would at least help my case a little bit. Switches into Groudon too. Excellent move. Yeah, I guess in a best of one, this matchup is pretty difficult because I don't know which, like, all of my opponent's Pokemon are really good for this matchup, but I guess you don't need to bring a Amoonguss and Ferrothorn when you can just shut down the Trick Room in the first place. So let's see what Thundurus goes for here. I mean, if he didn't go for a taunt, I'm going to be really sad, because then that would have been a great opportunity to come back into this game. But he does go for the taunt, yeah. So my opponent's making the safest plays possible, but it's really paying dividends right now. I'm going to get an Ice Beam off. That'll most likely do a ton of damage to Thundurus, if not just knock it out. It actually does pick up the KO. So that's nice, but now I think I just lose the game. Because he gets Groudon and Kyogre in, so now he has the Rain up, and he can just spam Precipice Blades. So my only way of winning here is if he misses some attacks. Although he actually brings in Salamence back in. I like that better on his end, actually. And unless he's like really slow Groudon, which would be interesting. Trying to think how I can win this one. Yeah, the issue with this is if you don't get Trick Room up, then your opponent is faster than you, and that's a major concern. I mean, you could just Hyper Voice Precipice Blades here, but that doesn't cover the Bronzong switch in. You could also Fire type attack the Kyogre and Double Edge. So I could make a really ballsy prediction right now and protect Kyogre and just attack. I kind of want to do that. I went for the Protect Rock Slide play. So the idea here is if I can knock out Salamence, then Rain will be back up, and if he doesn't have Thunder, I guess he'll still have Precipice Blades, though. He just goes for the Hyper Voice. Do we see a Fire Punch into Kyogre? No, he just spams Precipice Blades. And no dodge there, so this most likely will knock me out. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the play I was trying to make there. And wow, that just froze for a brief moment. Like, if I switch, I mean, if I switched in Bronzong, like, if I were my opponent, I would have just Fire Punched Kyogre. So he made the kind of obvious play, though hilariously enough, it's still not over. Actually, no, it's over. Now you just Fire Punch. Yeah, I don't have a way to knock out his Kyogre. So, I mean, the obvious play for me to make there is to protect my Groudon and switch out into my Bronzong. In retrospect, that probably would have been a better play, even worth the risk there. Because, let's see. If he does that, then the following turn I can switch back out into Kyogre. I think I still lose the game, but I could maybe pull something off with Skill Swap and Gravity and Precipice Blades. But this matchup was really difficult to handle, and, you know, people have been asking, like, what gives your team trouble? This is a pretty good demonstration. So here, he's just going to fire up. I mean, I guess I can go for the... I'm not even going to go for the double. I'll just Ice Beam and Trick Room. Yeah, he's just going to Double Edge. Should knock me out. Oh, I hang on with 1 HP. He does Fire Punch. If I hilariously enough survive this... Yeah, that's poor. That's a goner for Bronzong. So, you know, you'll see Fire Punch Groudon a lot more now as opposed to, like, Eruption. Sometimes players carry both, but Fire Punch, a pretty reliable option. Doesn't rely on how much HP you have. And, yeah, it looks like my OBS has been buffering here and there, so sorry if there were any interruptions in the end of this game. I don't know why it's been lagging. But that was a really well-executed game by my opponent. Would have been nice to win the speed tie earlier with Salamence, but I think turn 1 maybe I should have just switched out into Groudon immediately. I don't know. In general, this matchup is just pretty hard. I think like Salamence definitely helps because it helps against the Groudon. And the biggest, I guess, play I could have made at the end there. Wow, just keeps on freezing. I don't know why. Sorry about that, guys. Biggest play I could have made was switching the Bronzong in and trying to set up Trick Room, but like I said, even afterwards, you know, the Kyogre switching's obvious, so you can just Precipice Blades Double Edge that slot, pick up a knockout, I get Groudon back in. Even if I Gravity, you know, you can Fire Punch, and Kyogre had full HP. So yeah, I don't think I had a way to win this game, and that's why my opponent made the safe play of just Hyper Voice Precipice Blades, but really, really well played, and 2 really good games, I think, for you guys today in general. So, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Leave a like always if you did. Apologies for any lag that the video had towards the end there. We'll make sure to check up on that and fix it in the future. And yeah, that'll be it for this one. I'll see you guys next time. Alright, peace.